Hi guys, I wanted to capture this thought just using a single example. Can we explain the difference between these four concepts? So let's take the example of Haldiram. Haldiram is basically a food chain. By food I mean they are into making snacks, sweets, packaged snacks, packaged sweets, but they also have the restaurant model where you can walk into an outlet, Haldiram outlet, and you can get fresh sweets, fresh chola bhatura, dosa, all these items, right? So they have packaged food items. They also have freshly made food items, which they sell through their restaurants. And there is also a sitting arrangement, right? So this is Haldiram. Now, how can we use the example of Haldiram to explain these four different concepts? Now, these four different concepts are basically four different approaches of making a business succeed, right? So the crudest or the most basic approach and a faulty approach of making a business succeed is just effort. A lot of people can make this mistake of only putting an effort to make it tangible. For example, let's say Haldiram started when it started. Let's say this is all made up example, hypothetical example. So let's say when Haldiram started, they thought that they can only get ahead in business by hard work. So earlier, right from top management to the bottom employee, they were working 8 hours a day. Then they realized that they will have to put in 10 hours, then 11 hours, then 12 hours. They kept on increasing the effort, right? So this is what I mean by using the lever or the option of hard work and effort to get business results. So this is the crudest and not an optimal, not a efficient option. Another another dimension of effort could be money, not just amount of time, but also money. So they can just keep on putting in more and more money and hoping that the business will grow and succeed. So that is the crudest lever. But let's say in the made up story, they tried that, and after 4 or 5 years, they realized that they are getting burnt up. They are working hard, but the results are not as good. And then they discovered the second lever of business success, which is operational excellence, which means that they realized with experience, typically this lever comes by experience. They realized with experience that they have figured out certain hacks or certain techniques to eliminate wastage. Now they can, earlier they were wasting, let's say 10%, 15% food material, like the raw material, like the desi ghee or the milk, etc. Now they can prevent that. Earlier, the food that they prepared, 10%, 15% got wasted because it could not sell on time. So now they have figured out a process of planning through which they can only produce the food that is required, and they can eliminate wastage. They could also have figured out a way of getting the same taste using less raw materials. Earlier, they were putting unnecessary dry fruits and desi ghee, but now they can get the same quality or better quality by reducing the ghee or by reducing dry fruits, not doing excess, right? Not putting excess ghee and excess dry fruits. So these three examples are the examples of operational excellence. So let's say they went or graduated from the level of effort to the level of operational excellence after 3 4 years of being into the business. Then they got good results. Their productivity increased and profitability increased. They were very, very happy. But then what they realized after 3 4 years with the second lever, they realized that they are doing well in their home city, for example, Bikaner, for example, let's say. But then they realize that they have hit or they have penetrated that market and they want to grow further. And they could grow in entire Rajasthan. Why not in Uttar Pradesh? Why not in Delhi? Why not in Punjab, Haryana, right? The North India. So then what they did was to grow in neighboring states, they divided the business or they divided the responsibilities between the four sons of the owner. This is all hypothetical, yeah? Four sons or five sons of the owner. And they went to all different states. But then what they realized after 1 year that expanding into these five states requires so much money and time commitment that they don't have it, and so much management bandwidth is required because ultimately one person is leading all these four states. So then they figured out a business model, which is franchise business model, and they realized that this is a scalable business model. This is a win-win situation because under this model they will get 10%, 20% royalty. They will have to sell their brand and the best practices of making sweets, and the person who is franchising from them or licensing from them. He will put in the money, he will manage and operate the business, and will give 10-20% royalty to Haldiram. So then this was a scalable business model. This is the lever of business model, which they adopted this, and 3-4 years down the line, they were present in all the North India. And they were, although they were only getting 10-20% of the profits, but they had grown much more than what they would have grown if they had owned everything and they would have not gone for the franchisee business model. So this is the lever of business model through which the business can take the next leap. But now what happened? They grew very fast. Let's say they grew 5 times or 10 times in the next 3-4 years. But then what they saw was competition. That other players like Bikano, Brijvasi, a lot of other Indian players from separate states, like there would have been one person in Uttar Pradesh, for example, Brijvasi, there would have been someone in Haryana, let's say Kana Sweets. They also started adopting this business model, franchisee business model, and they also started competing fiercely and growing fiercely. So then they realized that business model is a lever which is copyable. Anyone can copy the franchise business model, and it simply takes time that the business and the money with business model and funding that the business model scales up, and everyone can compete. So 5 years into this business model, they saw increased competition from all these 4 or 5 players, and again their profitability, although they had penetrated the markets, but again the profitability was going for a toss because competition had increased. This is when you come to the fourth level, which is the level of strategy. And the main goal of strategy is how do you survive the competition? Goal of strategy is not growth. A strategy is about how do you tackle competition. Business model is about growth, right? Operational excellence could be about growth, right? But strategy is about tackling the competition and creating a sustainable advantage over the competition. So here, first of all, no one has, very few companies have strategy, because this is a very less understood domain, strategy. Business model is everyone understands. The strategy people don't understand. Very few examples exist of strategy. Why? Because the essence of strategy is making choices. And people are afraid of making choices because in choices there are trade-offs and people are not comfortable with trade-offs. So for example, here, if Haldiram were to choose a strategy, this is a hypothetical example, right? And if they were really facing the situation of growth but poor or declining profitability, then strategy would be the savior. The fourth level, which is the strategy, which means they will have to make choices. For example, this is, I don't know what the strategy will be, right? You will have to devise a strategy, but strategy could look like, a set of choices, such as only in the packaged foods. They are focusing only on the packaged food business and not in the freshly made food like chola bhatura, pav bhaji, etc. Another element of strategy could be they're only targeting the high economy segment, not the economy or the lower end segment, but a middle class segment, upper middle class segment. There's just, they could target any segment, but I'm just giving an illustrative example, targeting one particular segment. Then they could also focus on specific geographies where they can have a better control on the operations. So if you make such 3-4 big choices, and if the choices are all connected and reinforce each other, and as a result give you a unique edge, unique competitive advantage in the market, that would be an example of strategy. I don't want to make this message long because I have not explained strategy well. It could have been explained better, but I just wanted to use this single example to explain the difference between these 4 concepts. Thank you.